In today's episode, we are transforming the front end of the GU Patrol, and we're going to start by getting rid of this bonnet scoop and putting one that's a little bit more in the center.
Proudly supported by Superior Engineering, Diesel Conversions Australia, and in part by...
Obviously on the Series 4, we have this little bonnet scoop that is kind of off to the side and it throws the whole symmetry of the Patrol off. Now, one of the cheapest options is to go ahead and buy a second-hand RC Colorado or Rodeo 4 JJ1 scoop. I mean, this scoop is kind of fitting because we've obviously done the 4 JJ1 swap in the car, but I think this scoop's going to look a heck of a lot better. It's a lot bigger, it's a lot more centralized, and it's just going to add that little sleek design to the Patrol. Now I'm going to start by getting rid of this scoop, so we're going to have to flip the bonnet over, unbolt this one, get it out the way, and we can start tracing our footprint for the new scoop, sit it on, and hopefully we can get everything centralized up. I think I've got a pretty good idea on how we're going to get that footprint too. But we've only got one bonnet, so hopefully we get it right. And yeah, let's crack on with the episode. Right, so now that I've got the bonnet flipped over, I can go ahead and start disassembling this old scoop. Start by removing the little shroud piece, and then there's a few little 10mm bolts here. Get that out the way. So that's the little scoop off. I might actually keep this. We might be able to use this on a different project somewhere. Maybe put it on the Triton, I don't know. But that's the scoop off. That was nice and easy. So I'm going to flip this back over because we're going to need to start marking out the top template. But in order to do that, we are going to have to trace this thing. So we'll go over to the workbench, try and get a footprint going and see if we can get this dead accurate, get this in the center of the bonnet, hopefully. On the bottom of these 4J scoops, they have these kind of stud things sticking out. So that's actually a good thing. We're going to use that to our advantage here. Now how we're going to do is we're going to trace it onto some paper. Then we can actually get that paper across onto the bonnet, and then we can just mark everything out. And I've never done this before, so I hope it works. So I got all the studs poking through, so I'm going to flip it back over. So now I'm just going to trace around the 4J scoop itself. Now before I go ahead and mince the only bonnet we have, I am actually going to transfer that onto a piece of cardboard. Then we're going to actually use the cardboard to trace it onto the bonnet and see how close we are. This scoop is a little bit harder to do because it actually scoops into the bonnet. It's not just like sitting flush on the bonnet, so it's a little bit harder to trace. So I just want to make sure it's right, transfer it onto the cardboard, and then we'll be good to go. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. You can see that the middle part of the scoop does have to kind of sit down in that gap. So we'll get this over onto the bonnet, get it traced on, and hopefully she fits first try, but if not, we can fix it. You can see why the 4J scoop is quite a popular scoop on the S4s, and that is because it fits over the old scoop quite nicely. It actually doubles the amount of airflow into the engine. I'm going to start doing some measurements. We'll get this thing laid out perfectly in the center. Make sure that it's bang on. You want to measure this one 5 times, cut it once. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we can move on. Right, I found center and I've marked center on my template, so we are pretty well right to start tracing this. Now, it doesn't actually have to be perfect on the first run, but it does have to be pretty close. Right, so I am pretty well all marked out. You can see I've got my text to mark where I'm going to cut. Now there is an inner skin and an outer skin. I'm only going to take the outer skin off for now. I found the easiest way is to just mark the center so you can measure back from the center on each side and make sure that is bang on. Then if you fold your template in half and make sure that the bolt holes line up, don't go by the outer edge, then you can actually go ahead and mark center of your template. That way, when you line it up, you know that it is in the center. Now, in theory, we should be right, but I have no idea. Until we cut it, we won't know. I am gonna drill the holes out quite a bit bigger than the studs as well, just to allow for a little bit of movement. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut my bonnet up. Right, making pretty good progress. I've got the hole in the bonnet cut, but I did actually have to modify this scoop a little bit. Now, there is the 3 studs up the front and they do sit quite proud. I did have to cut them off for this to sit flat. Otherwise we had a weird gap under here. Now, there is probably a few different ways to do it, but what I've done is I've just cut them off and I'll run a bit of double-sided tape. Now, because we've cut away some of the support of the bonnet, I actually want to bolt it back together. And in order to do that, I did have to elongate these bolts here. So I've done away with the little factory stud that they come with. I've used a bigger bolt and it actually just slides in quite nicely. But that way it actually goes right through the skin. We can bolt it up and this is going to be nice and tight. I didn't even have to modify the cut hole at all. So our cardboard template worked quite well. And if you can see, that is sitting nice and flat. So I've got our 2 long bolts here, which is actually going to pull the bonnet and the skin really, really tight together. And actually that'll act as support because this whole scoop is now supporting the rest of the bonnet. We've got 3 of the factory bolts at the back. And like I said, none at the front. But what I'll do is get that little bit of double-sided tape and just put it under that lip. Now the next step is to get this in paint. Obviously we don't want a white scoop, so we're gonna have to bust out the paint gun. I did go ahead and buy some gold. We are also gonna have to touch up all these cuts. And that is actually bringing us on to the next exciting thing that we are putting on the Patrol. So right here, we have an old school Grandpa spec sun visor from 4x4 Off-Road Clinic. I've actually been waiting for this to come back in stock since I bought the Patrol. Now these are quite often out of stock, but if you go to 4x4 Off-Road Clinic, you can put your email address in and they'll notify you when they are back in stock. And guys, this thing is going to make the Patrol look so good. Now obviously this thing needs painting along with the scoop, so that's why I figured we'd do these 2 mods together. Then we've also got another sneaky mod behind you, so don't go anywhere because there's something very exciting behind you. Right, everything is in primer and nice and dry. I mean, that already came in primer, but what I did is just scuffed it back a little bit. I've also gone ahead and just taken the top off this primer as well, just so I know it's nice and flat and there's no imperfections in it. As you can see, I've covered some stuff up and it is time to mix some paint. So what we're doing is a base coat, which this will sort of look crap until we get clear on it, but we need to spray 2 coats of that and then we'll probably do 2 coats of clear. And then these will look bloody mint. After that, we'll have to wait a couple days and then we can fit it all up to the car. But right now, I'm gonna mix some paint and we're gonna start spraying. Been a couple of days and we are nice and dry. I didn't want to come in yesterday just in case it wasn't dry, but how good does that look? This is my first time painting metallic, so I was a little bit nervous, but if you can see the old scoop to the new scoop, my one's got a little bit more of a texture to it, but that's because this has been cut and polished. That's completely raw, straight out of the gun. I'm actually pretty impressed with how that come up. It feels dead dead smooth. There's a tiniest bit of orange peel. You can kind of see it there, but not too bad at all. Now, one thing I haven't done yet is paint the inside of the hole that we cut in the bonnet. So obviously all this here is raw steel at the moment, so we need to go ahead and paint that. And how I'm gonna do that, because I kind of ran out of time the other day, is I've got a little bit of paint mixed up just here. So we're gonna use that little bit of paint. And then I've actually got a clear right here in the high heat stuff. That'll be really quick drying compared to mixing up some more 2K clear. And that way we can actually go ahead and paint that today, get everything fitted up, and we can keep moving along with what we're doing. Over there is the next surprise. We have a brand new Bullbar going on this thing. Now, I'm gonna talk about this bar a little bit later, but it is a mill weld bar, and I'm very, very excited to get that on. That is my favorite bar. Anyway, what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna tidy up this hole so that we can sit that on and get the bonnet fitted up. While all that's drying though, I may as well go ahead and strip the old Bullbar off. Then we're probably gonna come along and fit this visor here. There's a lot of things going on at once at the moment. Right, so all I've done is just brushed on the base coat and then I've hit it with that clear. I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out so far. It's definitely not gonna rust. I've loaded the holes with clear as well. What I might do is when the scoop is fitted up, we'll go underneath and spray it with clear one more time just to make sure that we have got every single little bit of raw metal. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and start ripping the Bullbar off the GU. I need to take the lights, the winch, everything off and get them transferred over to this new bar. Right, welcome to the Bullbar factory. We've got all sorts of Bullbars. We've got gold ones, we've got black ones. We've got the best looking ones on the market sitting right here. Obviously behind me, we've got the Jimmy bar. Now, I actually really love this bar and there's nothing wrong with this bar. On the GU, we've got the tube rear bar and we've got the tube sliders, and I really like tube front bars. So I've actually gone ahead and ordered this mill weld bar from Mill Weld Customs. And guys, I'm very happy with this purchase. Now there is a couple subtle differences that is gonna really help the car out. Now, as you can see, the Jimmy bar here, it goes up and down, where the mill weld bar actually goes the opposite way, allowing a lot more airflow to get into the intercooler and also into the rad and the transcooler. Haven't had any cooling issues on the road at all yet, but I have had cooling issues when we went to Morton and hit the soft sand with the trailer. So I really think that having this dip here is really gonna help with our temperatures, as well as we've got two more holes for air to be forced into, whereas if this plate bar, there's no way the air can get in, and obviously we've got the two spotties up here. So we're actually missing out on a lot of air coming into our motor. So this is really gonna help. Actually, this bar combined with the scoop, I really think is just gonna allow a heck of a lot more air to go through everything, and it's gonna bring our temps right down next time we hit the sand. The other reason I really like this bar is it does have integrated recovery points, and it also boxes around the chassis in the way that it mounts. It's a really heavy bar. Heavy means strong and strong means good quality. So I am happy that we are going the Mill Weld Customs. So what I need to do is start unbolting this bar. I'm just really keen to get this bar on and see what it looks like all fitted up. So let's go ahead and get this Jimmy bar off, get the new bar on, and yeah, hopefully this looks mint. Right, I've just done a test fit just in case it didn't clear the intercooler or something like that, but look how much air we are gonna get through this thing. The other bar actually came up about here, so only the top of the front mount intercooler was kind of exposed there, but that is a lot more air. Plus we've got all the holes on the side. I am definitely stoked with that purchase. I think that looks really nice. What I need to do is get everything unbolted from in here and try and transfer it over. What I'm a little bit worried about is that this winch is very long, and as you can see, it kind of sticks out right to here. So I don't know if that is actually gonna fit this new bar yet, but I'll unbolt it anyway and I'll try and whack it on. Worst case scenario, might have to space it back a little bit. but time will tell. Right, I've spent a good bloody hour trying to make this winch fit, and it's just not gonna happen. You can see the motor in there. I've had to grind that away. I actually managed to get that to fit, and I had to space the winch off the bull bar, so I had to pack in 2 washers there to move it back. And all that is fine, but if you have a look at the free spool level, which is right there, it is gonna hit the intercooler if I push it any further back. You can see down there, it has to go a fair bit back still, so it is not gonna fit unless I move the intercooler, which I'm definitely not gonna do today. All right, that is sitting really nice and flat the whole way around. Actually very impressed by that. So the double-sided tape's gonna hold that front down. We've got 5 studs holding the rest of it down. I don't think that is gonna go anywhere. So now it's time to pick this up and put it onto the Patrol. Right, I had no chance of lifting the bonnet on by myself, so I had to get Alicia to come out and give me a hand. But guys, I love the look of that 4J scoop. I've had that sitting up there for like 6 months, and it's finally on, and I bloody love it. So we've got tons more airflow coming through this bar, tons more airflow going down there. Not that we have a top mount or anything, that's purely for looks, but it's also gonna send a bit more air and allow air to move around in the motor, which is quite good. Now, the last piece of the puzzle, as you guys know, is this sun visor. So I'm gonna figure out how this goes. I'm gonna pull the tape off because there's actually a chrome lip on it. I'm gonna get that up, and then the car is gonna be bloody Mintos. All right guys, how good does that look? We've got the visor on. Now it just mounts with these little stainless steel brackets, and then you screw it through the thing. It was easy for me because I just measured off the KingFab custom snorkel brackets there because they're perfectly center. So it was nice and easy for me to get a measurement. But if you didn't have that, you'd just be taking a measurement off the lip and just make sure it's nice and even. Now they do have a little gap under there, and that gap is to let the air out. Otherwise there would be a lot of force on that thing. Now the cool thing is I painted under there black, and then when I was spraying the metallic, I got a little bit of metallic under there, and then I put some clear coat on it as well. So we've kind of got this like little gold galaxy thing going on up under there, which is pretty cool. Obviously we've done the Bullbar, the 4J scoop, and that Grampa spec visor, and I think the 3 of them together made this thing look super tough, but also super usable. We've got the recovery points now. We've got tons more air coming through to the intercooler, the transmission cooler, and the radiator, which is all good things. I mean, the only downside at the moment is that the winch doesn't fit, but it didn't fit the Jimmy bar really either. I had to modify it. So I think I'll just go ahead and get another winch, and then we can bolt that on. But for now, this thing looks really good. I think the 4J scoop is such a good budget-friendly scoop to put on. Some of those fiberglass scoops that I was looking up, they're up around 500 bucks. I mean, I picked that up for 100 bucks, and I think that's pretty good. So huge thank you to Millwell Customs, because they actually sold me this as a secondhand bar and had it re-powder coated for me, which is really cool. So I appreciate them getting me one on time because I wanted it for this video. And then I also want to thank 4x4 Off-Road Clinic because they were out of stock as well with the visor. Those things just come in stock and then they're sold out instantly. I sold out in 3 hours and I did miss out, but I messaged him on Instagram and he actually had one left. So thank you for sending the last one out to me. I really appreciate it. I actually think this episode, in terms of mods, has been one of the best because I think it just really transformed the look of the Patrol. Curious to know what you guys think though. So that's actually gonna be it for today, guys. Diesel's been a bit of a sook and needed a hug. So we're gonna go inside and get you some food, eh boy? Let's go.